Good morning, everybody. Good day. My name is Jeff Phipps. We're going to talk about how to equitably close the CS education gap. Thank you, Strange Loop, for having me. I grabbed their logo and put it on my slide, so we'll start with there. Let's start with introductions. My Twitter handle is @Teals Jeffery, Jeffery. There's a not so funny story on why my name is spelled weird than everybody else spells it, but legally it is REY, but it's ERY anymore. So I am the St. Louis Regional Manager of the Teals Program. I taught high school math and computer science here in St. Louis at St. Louis Public School District at a school called Central Visual and Performing Arts High School for 13 years. I joined the Microsoft Philanthropies Teals Program 1 year ago, and I do enjoy Python and Java coding challenges, but I am not a software engineer, nor have I ever been. I came into this from a high school perspective, and maybe I can help explain to you why we need what we need, what I'm going to get to. So let's go around the room real quick, do some introductions. Blake, if you'd start me out, just kind of tell me who you are and what you do. We'll go through this as quickly as possible, and then we'll get on to the big thing. So, great. So most all of us here are software engineers. How many of us saw computer science before college? Okay, a majority of the room. I learned how to code at 7th grade, believe it or not. And we had a basic, I learned on an Apple IIgs. Anybody learned older than that? All right, handful of people. Tandy's around the same time. The Apple IIe, 2GS, that's where I learned basic in 7th grade, and I saw it again in 10th grade, okay? We have a problem. And I say we, I mean all of us, okay? We have a gap in computer science education. So a lot of us in this room saw computer science in high school, said, hey, this is something I can do, and we went on and we studied computer science in high school. I do have a minor in computer science, but again, I became a high school math teacher, all right? So I did use that knowledge that I had in high school, and I applied it to college, and I thought I wanted to code until I started coding, and I realized I don't like coding, and I don't want to be a software engineer. And I was like, but I like math too, and I want to solve a problem, me personally. And the problem I wanted to solve is I wanted to help at-risk kids. I wanted to reach people that didn't have those things, and that's why I chose to teach in the city. Okay, so I made a conscious effort to teach math in computer science came up, and that's how I ended up here at the Teals Program. 67% of all jobs are in computing. There's 400,000 current openings. All of you, you stood up and you said, hey, we're hiring. How many people here are hiring right now? The majority of the room is hiring right now. So we have a problem. And at Teals, we're going to try and help fix it. 40% in schools. Right now, we're at 50%. In Missouri, state of Missouri, it's a little bit higher. Arkansas is at 60% right now, and they're number 1 in the United States. I would have never made that guess, but maybe because of Walmart, who knows? In 2016, only 75 individuals graduated from universities equipped to teach computer science, compared to 12,000 math teachers. So what is the Teals Program? All right, some of you who come by and visit the booth, thank you. You got my card. We gave away cool pens. We had those bracelets, too, that charge your phone. Please come by if you haven't and grab those before the end of the day. What it stands for is Technology Education and Literacy in Schools. And right now, we're trying to help high schools develop a computer science track so that for the people who are in here that saw it beforehand, before they got to college, that we can reach those people, all right? We help. Here's how our program works. We identify teachers, and we identify schools that do not have computer science, and we work at industry volunteers such as you all, like Blake here, who will share along his message. Blake volunteers at a school called St. Mary's here in St. Louis that is about 50% African-American. And he goes to the class twice a week, and he helps volunteer. And he's helping Christine, the classroom teacher, become a computer science teacher so that after 2 or 3 years, Christine is independent. And then we move on to another school, and we help set up their computer science track, okay? We focus on engaging students excluded from learning computer science because of race, gender, and geography. So that includes rural schools. We remote into schools. There's a school in Lebanon, Missouri, which is, I think, 300 people. And right now, they're learning Computer Science A, which is a Java class. Anybody take that in high school? Computer Science A, 1, 2 people, where they're learning object-oriented programming right now. Okay, and then again, if you see it early, the earlier you see it, the more likely that you realize that this is a path that you can take. And like I said, we're looking for people, right? Okay, so here's my ask. Here's why I'm here. Somebody asked me that directly this week. Why are you here? If you're worried about high schools, why are you here? Well, I'll tell you why. Our volunteers help fill the subject matter gaps for teachers and provide support through the year as questions arise, okay? So these teachers know how to teach, but we're going to teach them computer science, and in that way, the gap is closed, all right? The volunteers make impact multiple times. Not only do these kids, so like we have volunteers from like Riot Games. These kids get to see like, oh, I could make video games, I could work there. We have volunteers from Launch Code. We have volunteers from all over the industry, and so the kids actually get to see, they get to understand what you do with a computer science degree. Okay? Our volunteers expand their career horizons. Like I said, only 45% of students say an adult has encouraged them to pursue a computer science degree. Now, I'm sure here it'd be much higher, but just think about in general, did anybody before you studied computer science say, hey, computer science is for you? Okay? So here's where we're at. This is for the 2021 school year. The next time I give this presentation, it will be updated. We're in 455 schools as of last year, including 27 states and British Columbia, Canada. And we recently opened up some schools in Juarez, Mexico, so we are expanding our reach throughout the North America. We do about 589 computer science classes. We're reaching about 12,000 students, and 35% of them are female. We are expanding, so recently we've gone to New Orleans, we're in Jacksonville, we're in Memphis. We are expanding our reach, and we are trying to grow. So right now we're probably in about 600 or 700 schools. My numbers aren't going to be accurate, and we have about 2,000 volunteers. So part of Microsoft's commitment to the Black and African American community is that we're expanding our reach. So we're part of what we call the Black and African American expansion. We're working with schools to strategize and our resources to help increase equitable participation in high school computer science. And we're creating an action plan and implementing it to make progress towards diversity and inclusion outcomes. That's the reason why I'm here in St. Louis. So I've been working with school districts like Jennings, if you're familiar with the St. Louis area, which is a 98% African American student. Mac here is from the Ferguson-Florissant School District, which again has a similar demographic where it's about 90% African American students. So we are making a committed effort to help reach school districts where, again, if you don't hear computer science is a thing, you don't think about it, all right? So you can help. That's why I'm here. I need help. We need help. These teachers need help, all right? 48% of students see themselves studying computer science more after having a computer science class. 58% of them think that they can study computer science afterwards, and 91% of these students see themselves going to college, all right? If you expand a student's horizons, you make all the difference in the world. And I cannot emphasize that enough, all right? I mean, I could say it till I blue in the face. I know as a former teacher, like, there were kids who saw themselves not making what they were doing, and then they went into engineering, they went into, mathematics, they went into, I had a student take actuarial science, which is just, I felt bad for her, but that's what she wanted to do. I'm like, I don't know why anybody would want to do that for a living, but God bless you. We set you up for success. So let's say, our volunteer application opens up in January. And we get you ready for that. So you apply, we'll interview you, we'll see where you're a good fit. And here's what we do. We volunteer, we train you over the summer. All right? Your teaching team will meet throughout the summer to build cohesion and plan for the year. We have classroom observations and feedback. As a matter of fact, I came and saw Blake and Mac earlier in the last 2 weeks, and I provided feedback to both of them and told them, gave them opportunities to grow and stuff like that. There are multiple opportunities to share with people within your community, okay? So we have meetups where you meet other volunteers and stuff like that so you can expand your network. And then there's a dedicated regional manager to answer your questions and provide support. If you're in the St. Louis area or in the state of Missouri, you'd be dealing with me directly. And I'm not the worst person to deal with, right? Okay, thank you. Okay. So you're saying to yourself, all right, I reached out. So somebody was just talking to me from Nashville a minute ago. We don't have schools in Nashville. And like I said, we have a school in Lebanon, Missouri, which is in the middle of nowhere in the Ozarks. You can work from home. And also, if during the pandemic, you can still remote in from home. Max volunteers, for example, one of them is Chicago, and the other one is at Champaign, Illinois. And so they come in and they Zoom in twice a week or once a week right now, and they help the class out through Zoom. We are agnostic, so I know the question gets asked. I'll go ahead and address it now. We are part of the Microsoft Philanthropies program. We're not going to push anything Microsoft related on you. We do not ask that that the school becomes a Microsoft school. We do not need you to be a Microsoft employee. We just need you to be committed to helping grow computer science. All right? So this is part of the community outreach program at Microsoft, and that's what I do. So I'm a part of Philanthropies. I'm not a part of Microsoft proper, I guess you'd say, but not really, but I am. So, but we do provide virtual support. So this guy is out of Kansas City, and he helps schools out in rural Texas, and that's what he does. And that's what he likes to do, and that's what he does as a volunteer. So if you're in the Bay Area and you want to help somewhere else, we could gladly help accommodate that. All right, so I'm going to show you a little video real quick on what remote volunteering looks like. Hopefully we tested the sound earlier, right, Greg? We're good to go. So let's watch a video real quick where some of our volunteers talk about what it was like teaching during the pandemic.
When I was in high school, nobody told me that you could make a career out of computer science or coding. And that was a huge factor for me in becoming involved with Teals, volunteering remotely, because I wish I had that person in my life.
Volunteering remotely makes just as much difference as volunteering in person. You're going to bring all that knowledge to the table and share that knowledge with the students. And knowledge is power.
A typical day when I teach with Teals is I follow my normal routine. I get coffee and then I sit down at my desk, which is right next to my bed because I'm working in my bedroom. And then I go right to teaching. I just log on to the website and I click into my class and I'm pulled up into a virtual classroom.
The first 15 minutes or so, it will be a lecture portion led by volunteers or a classroom teacher. And then the last 30 to 40 minutes will be actually breakout room sessions where we go and work with the students individually or in groups.
I know I was a little unsure, but open to volunteering virtually. But that is just the best feeling in the world, to be able to help somebody to gather the knowledge and the confidence to learn computer science.
I think that the opportunity to give these kids this background and understanding in computer science is going to open doors for them that would have never been open without the support of Teals.
And if you take the time and you put in the effort, it's really easy to connect with students on a more personal level.
Working in small breakout rooms, I think, is a lot more inviting for students. It makes us as instructors a lot more accessible to the students.
And I have to say that's pretty important because the kids get a lot of really close attention and are able to receive the support that they need.
Ultimately, the Teals model is that we want to support the teacher and the school so that they are able to be self-sufficient in the future.
So as a Teals volunteer, it is a very collaborative partnership with our teacher. Our teacher is the lead of the classroom.
From an instructional standpoint and from a classroom management standpoint, we got you covered. The teacher will provide you with that support that you need.
Anybody that's programming really has a great opportunity to make an impact on society and in your community. Just giving a couple of hours a week is going to be so impactful for the teacher, the student, and the school.
I think it's just such a great opportunity for students to actually have a career that can not only change their life, but it can impact generations to come.
When we work with students, we hold a lot more power than we think we do. And those students can change the world, but if they don't have someone tell them that, they might not believe it.
Okay, so here's what your actual week would look like. We do actually ask a commitment that you come to the classroom twice a week. However, not every volunteer does. It just depends on the program. But we ask that it's a 5-hour-a-week commitment, usually like 1 hour in the classroom twice a week, and then we ask that your team meets once a week to prepare for the week ahead, all right? So you'd read lesson plans, adapt your activities, you collaborate with your teaching team, you'll discuss, how students are doing, what you could do better, stuff like that. You volunteer. The one thing that we asked our schools a couple things. One, that they cover all the involvement in the costs. So like there's nothing out of pocket for you. The school will cover your background check, so that'll be taken care of. And then we ask that they make computer science the first class in the morning. So our ask is that computer science is done by 9:30 a.m. so that, if you're a late goer or something like that, you go in after that. Or, for some places we ask that you make arrangements like, hey, tell your bosses this is what you're doing. I've only seen one person so far in my year say that their boss told them no. For the most part, I think your boss is going to be pretty acceptable that you're volunteering your time at a high school to help improve computer science. Okay, we are an industry-wide effort. Like I said, we are part of Microsoft, but we pull our volunteers from everywhere. We're over 650 companies. We have about 1,500. Like I said, right now we have about 2,000 because this is last year's slide, and we reach about 12,000 students. Here are some of the companies that we work with. Amazon, Facebook, Google, Lyft, Uber, Riot Games. We met with them. We have a handful of them from Riot Games, but we have volunteers from everywhere. All right, not just Microsoft, which is like one of our bigger suppliers, obviously. All right, so what would you support? I'm glad you asked. We support 4 main core classes for the most part, but that 4th one covers a lot of topics. The first one is an introduction to computer science. Usually those are block-based programming, and Python is usually the language that people use to introduce computer science to people. Those are curriculums such as CMU, Carnegie Mellon University has one, Project Lead the Way, Code.org, like CS Essentials, CS Discoveries, you'll see the names of those. The second one is Computer Science Principles, which is a year-long AP course that teaches the internet. Again, that one is language agnostic, so you might see Python, you might see Java, you might see a handful of JavaScript, some of them. Again, Code.org is one we support. Microsoft has one. There are several others that I'm just blanking on right now. PopFizz is a newer one that's providing one, Project Lead the Way. And then there's AP Computer Science A, which is a that first semester of object-oriented programming that you had. It's in Java specifically. It's run by the AP. And so that one is very rigid and structured. Some of the curriculum providers are CS Awesome, BJC, Carnegie Mellon. Again, we have our own curriculum that's on GitHub that you can look at if you want to take a look at the curriculum. And then the last one are computer science topics. This is like cybersecurity, game design, and machine learning that we're implementing in schools. Not a lot of schools add these, so we try to support them where we can, but this is where it's going. But these first 3 are our big core, and then like some schools are adding these extra ones, and we try and support them where we can. Volunteering is beneficial, all right? 91% of our volunteers have found the experience rewarding. We have about a 60% retention rate or so. Like I said, you connect and collaborate with like-minded individuals. You become more integrated in that local community at that school you're in. And you create a lasting relationship with teachers and stuff like that. Blake has been a volunteer for 4 years. In a minute, we're gonna let you guys ask questions, and he can tell you how much that's made an impact in his life. All right, so who are we looking for? So, I've kind of explained the program pretty well. Here's our target demographic. If you're a CS graduate, if you're an industry professional in a CS-related role, and if you're a junior or senior who's like high achieving, we're looking for you, all right? If you have a coding background, if you understand concepts like while, loop, if, functions, return values, stuff like that, you're ready. So we need you. You can apply your knowledge and experience and ignite interest for computer science students throughout the United States. But maybe it isn't for you. Maybe you've sat and you've heard me and you're like, okay, this sounds amazing. I like what you're doing. I'm not doing it. There's nothing wrong with that, all right? It's not for everyone. We're literally asking you to make a school year commitment. That is a big deal, and twice a week at that. So that's a lot of time. That's a lot of your time. I get that, all right? but you can certainly spread the word. If you've never heard of our program before and you know people who want to give back into their communities, this is one way they can do it. All right? If you have if you're like the CEO, or if you're part of that tech, if you're a senior tech person, we would love to come and talk to your company and look for volunteers that way. Like at Worldwide Tech last year, we gave I don't know if you remember that or if you saw it, we were there. I presented pretty much the same thing then. But we presented at Riot Games, we presented at Microsoft, we presented companies throughout the United States, and just, we're looking for help. And, you can spread the word. Like I said, you can share with someone who may be interested in our program. Hey, I would love to give back. Okay, well, hey, I heard of this program called Teals, and they're great. All right, I'm gonna leave with this one last example. Okay, this is Jovel, he's out of Detroit, Michigan. Jovel was almost like a high school dropout. All right, and he was at an alternative school. And we have Teals there, and they had computer science. And Jovel took to it like a fish takes to water. Jovel started coming into school early to code, started getting ahead of the teacher on the programs. Jovel had landed a summer internship, and he is now working towards being a software developer. Recently, I don't know if anybody follows on the LinkedIn, we have a big, he's one of our showcases right now on our LinkedIn site. So if you go to, you type in Microsoft Teals on LinkedIn, you'll see a big thing about Jovel. He's amazing. All right, and again, did not know that coding existed and just kind of happened to discover it and then just took right to it. Like probably a lot of you in this room, right? Like you just kind of started with it and all of a sudden it's like, this is who I am. I love coding. All right. So what are the next steps? You can apply online. The application will open this spring. Our website is microsoft.com/teals. If you have any questions whatsoever, my email address, again, remember, it's ERY, not REY. So JEFFERY, you can get a card at the table where we have a booth. Get yourself a pen at least. We got some cool pens with like little fuzzy heads on them. They're pretty interesting. Get one of those. You can reach out to me on Twitter at TealsJeffrey. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm Jeffery Phipps on LinkedIn. There's 8 million ways to get a hold of me. I would love to answer any of your questions. And like I said, I spoke to some of you and you said you were in the Bay Area, or if you're here or there, I will put you in touch with the person in your region. All right? And help us spread the word. Like I said, thank you so much. You can learn more at Microsoft.com. You can also hit us up at aka.ms/tealscontact, and that's where you fill out like the information form, and that will actually direct you directly to the person that'll do that. All right, so before we close out, before I say thank you, I'd like to bring up Mac and Blake here, if you would, please. And I'm going to let you ask them questions. Blake Mills is a 4-year volunteer, and Mac is in their first year as a teacher with the program. So I will let you fire away and ask questions, and hopefully we can help get some clarity here. We don't select schools, they apply for us. So our application is actually opening up in 15 days on the 15th. Right now we're getting ready for recruiting sites. So I will go look for schools. Like that's part of my job. I try to recruit schools. Like Ferguson, Florissant was a school district that I bugged. There's no other better way to say it. I emailed them, I told them about our program, got a hold of the right person, and then they applied, and then we accepted them as a school. So if you know of a school, or your kid doesn't have computer science at their school, have them reach out to us. Through the contact information, they can submit their form, we can contact them, and then we can kind of go from there. Yeah, but I mean that's a great question, and that is a problem, right? We reach out to schools. Last year, I reached out to St. Louis Public School District. I reached out to Ferguson, Florissant. I reached out to East St. Louis. So are you from St. Louis? No, I'm from Utah. Okay, so I reach out personally to schools. Someone like you could let these schools know that we exist, and then they can reach out to us. Wherever there's a demand, that's where we put a regional manager. So we don't have a Utah person right now, but we have a Northern California person who also works in Oregon. And so that person would probably be the person to help set that up and get that started. But sometimes schools just hear of us randomly or haphazardly, but we do make an effort to try and reach out to schools and get their attention. Questions? Did that answer your question? Okay. Oh, no problem. Anybody else? I know Amazon has the Future Engineers Program, where they're kind of doing a similar thing. I know Apple has one, but I don't know the name of it off the top of my head. I just stumbled across it because they were looking for a St. Louis person. But I know there are other companies doing this thing. As far as like other countries, basically Juarez organized itself and then we rubber stamped it. Does that make sense? And British Columbia was almost the same situation, but then they had so many people in British Columbia that we sent a regional manager there. In terms of other companies that do these kind of things, not off the top of my head. I'm kind of living in my own little bubble where I've got to deal with like St. Louis and Missouri and stuff like that. But there certainly are. As far as like other countries, like I don't know where you would go to find out who does that kind of stuff. I mean, there can be, depending on the school. I mean, for CSA, they ask that you take Algebra 2, usually. But for like computer science principles, AP designed that course just to be an introductory course for like, even for teachers who had no background. The reason why they created computer science principles was to create more high school computer science teachers. So their assumption is that A, the teacher doesn't have much of a background in computer science, and B, the students don't have a background in computer science. Computer science principles is almost like an introductory class in itself, except it's a little more rigorous. Anybody have any questions for Blake or Mac while they're here?
Tell me your favorite experience.
Hello. When a student says, "Oh, I can see myself being a programmer now," when they hadn't thought about it before. Or when they just do one thing you ask them to, because sometimes that's a battle.
I feel very seen and heard by that last comment. We've just started this year. I would say I shared with Jeff yesterday, but we had a really cool moment the other day where the students jump on the Zoom, the volunteers are there, and we had started up a lesson the previous class, and so I was like, well, the volunteers need to know where we're at in our lesson, and so I was like, okay, well, who wants to share it with them? And I did bribe them with candy because, it's, almost Halloween and all that. But anyway, so I was like, hey, 2 pieces of candy if you'll jump on the Zoom and share your screen and explain your program. And it was just a really great moment where the students were like, yeah, okay. And they were secretly excited about it. They probably would have done it without the candy. But yeah, and then it was great because the volunteers asked questions that they really needed to know the answer to try to help. But it was a really great moment where the student was now the teacher, and I love that flipped classroom kind of thing or whatever. And it's just a great interaction for them to have another adult that's, coaching them and guiding them, and it just really fosters like a learning community vibe that I really try to make in my classroom, where it's like, I'm not like the leader, like we're in a learning community and we're all learning and growing together. And I think having the other coaches, volunteers, just really makes that even more of a real life kind of experience for them.
Anybody else? Yeah.
Has it typically been one per class, or do you get a rotation?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we do 2 different models. Usually we have a slide for this, and I guess we didn't for this one. We have what they call a CoTeach model. So that's like we have a team of 4 volunteers come in. 2 of them will actually lead the class in teaching, and the other 2 will be the tech support or like lab support for those co-teachers, while the teacher and that's the assumption is that the teacher has like no background in computer science. Usually a school will do that for 1 to 2 years, and then they'll start at our lab support model, where we'll have 2 volunteers come in and they'll co-teach. So for most of our teams, like Blake has a person who's remote. His name is Ed, and Ed lived in St. Louis, but got promoted, and he comes in from Chicago, zooms in, and he helps one of the days that Blake's not there. So you won't be alone in isolation. Now, Michael, who's up at the booth right now, he is alone in his thing, but they're a very unique situation where we don't really need to support them at their point. Their teacher's amazing, already has like a really good grasp of computer science, and his kids go to that school. So we're basically like, yeah, Michael, you can help your school. We'll rubber stamp it, and we'll be like, you can say you're a Teals school, but for real, you're not really a Teals school. Like we're trying to reach like schools where the teachers are ramping up, and so our teams are usually 2 to 4 people. Any other questions? Yes? Yeah, after about one Blake in St. Louis, I think I was pretty much done with it, but do you go by anything else besides Blake?
Can you misspell it?
Okay. No, there's no limit on names. Unless it breaks the system, we had 3 people name the same thing, I guess. I don't know. I assume we just start going by middle initials at that point. Any other questions? Yes? Oh, what's that? Can you speak up? Well, I mean, we're limited by the number of schools we have, and we're limited by location and region. So, like, for example, sometimes we'll need volunteers in Detroit, and we don't have anybody in Detroit, so we'll have to remote in. We won't have, like, so basically, like, at the summer, I was still looking for people in St. Louis. Right now, I'm still technically looking for one person because we had a tragic accident with one of our volunteers. I don't know if anybody in here knew Zach Schneider. He recently passed away. He was in a train derailment. And he was from Fairview Heights. He was volunteering at Jennings. Okay, and so we lost him. And so now I'm trying to find a in-person co-teacher for that Python class. So if you're in from St. Louis and you're a volunteer and you're interested, come see me because I really need to volunteer for that school. But so that happens. So we do sometimes need volunteers. So the best thing you could do is fill out the contact information. If you're ready to go now, maybe we have an opening somewhere. Like, we probably do have openings, but they're very, like, unique situations. Does that make sense? Basically, we're talking about for January is when our volunteer application opens up, and we're going to be looking people to start that next school year. You have a question in the back? The what? Yes, it can be in person. Yeah, I don't know if I made that clear or not, but most of it, like, Blake's in person. But his support person is remote. Her volunteers their volunteers are remote, and so it just depends on the situation. But like at Jennings, those people are in person. A lot of my schools here in St. Louis are in person, but because of like the unique situation with Ed, Ed went to St. Mary's, and so he still wants to get back to St. Mary's, but Ed got promoted and moved to Chicago. So Ed zooms in. So it just depends on the situation. A lot of our schools are in person this year. I would anticipate next year most of our schools being in person because I think, fingers crossed, that we come to some kind of understanding that we just have to kind of get back to normal, whatever normal is. Does that make sense? And that's just a personal opinion that has nothing to do with anything related to Teal's situation or anything like that. I just want to throw out that disclaimer. But I think most of them will be in person next year. Personal opinion. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you very much for having me. Please, if you have any questions on the way out, hit up Mac, hit up Blake, hit up myself. I'd love to talk to you. Again, we have a booth over by the John Deere thing, so when you get done playing with the tractor, come by, get a pen, maybe get my card, ask me questions, and maybe some of you will be helping us out next year, and that would be great. Thank you very much.